This is an American reality TV show focused entirely on capturing participants. 18 ordinary citizens pair up and impersonate fugitives to evade police capture. If they remain uncaptured for 28 days, they win $250,000. 9 teams compete to become the ultimate escapees. The show features 32 top global trackers using advanced tracking technologies and equipment to make it clear to the fugitives that there is nowhere to hide. Once the game starts, the fugitives receive notifications and have 1 hour to escape before the hunters, led by a former high-ranking FBI official, receive alerts to start the pursuit. One participant, David, a former gang member from Miami, has extensive experience in evading capture. Despite being caught 13 times, he has escaped more often than not. He joined the gang to prevent bullying on his way home from school. David's teammate is his girlfriend, Emily. After receiving the escape notification, they quickly pack their belongings. An hour later, the capture team initiates their pursuit plan against David and Emily. The first action of the capture operation involves the intelligence team scouring the internet for clues. David and his team pack up and flee in a friend's car. Each team has only $500, crucial for their survival, but they can only withdraw $100 at a time. David knows that using his bank card at an ATM will reveal his location to the capture team, so he chooses to withdraw money from the nearest location and disappears immediately after. The capture team receives the withdrawal alert and footage of David at the ATM. Meanwhile, David hopes to hide at his friend's house for some time. While the team focuses on capturing David, the second group of fugitives appears. Angela, accompanied by a college friend, also takes on the role of a fugitive. If they can evade capture for 28 days, they win $280,000. Angela, a single mother of a 14-year-old, previously worked 3 jobs a day and still rents a house. Upon receiving the escape notification, Angela's first task is to ensure her daughter's safety, then meet with her friend, Michelle. As Angela anxiously waits in her car, the capture team finds her vehicle information through surveillance. Luckily, Michelle arrives in a large truck, just in time to help them escape the city. Let's now look at the third escape team, a couple soon to be married, Matt and Christina. Matt is a wealthy young man, and his girlfriend Christina is a model. They treat the game as just that, a game. Meanwhile, after David's team fled, law enforcement obtained a search warrant and confiscated items that could aid in their capture, such as laptops, tablets, and notes. Among the items, officers found a crucial piece of evidence, a calendar. Emily had written their escape plans in the calendar for June and had torn out that page. However, because she pressed down so hard while writing, the imprint was left on the July page. Analysts discovered this and were able to pencil over the imprint, revealing the entire escape itinerary of David's team. Ground forces quickly located the street near where David was staying. Since they were not real fugitives, the capture team could only wait for the right moment to act. When David's friend noticed strange black cars on the street, he immediately called his wife and then warned David's team to leave quickly. The young couple's team is still heading to Atlanta, hoping that friends there can help them. They might have been safe just driving out of the city, as although there are surveillance cameras along the way, the capture team hasn't yet obtained their vehicle information. Matt and Christina believe their car will soon be tracked, so they get out and borrow a phone to call relatives to pick them up. Matt manages to borrow a phone and calls his parents, but no one answers. After deliberation, they decide to go to the South bus station and take a bus. Before leaving, they dress up carefully to blend in. They need to buy bus tickets, and the bus to Atlanta is leaving in a few minutes. Matt, in a rush and without cash, uses his bank card at an ATM inside the bus station. The capture team can locate the ATM through the withdrawal records and just needs to confirm the specific vehicle and route to intercept it and capture the couple. After the young couple is eliminated, the equally endangered David's team decides to relocate stealthily. At night, they hide in the trunk of a friend's car. The trunk is cramped, and hiding together could pose a risk of suffocation. Meanwhile, a capture team ground unit is constantly watching the vehicles passing by in the community street, while David and his girlfriend Emily curl up in the trunk, praying they can survive this ordeal. On the deserted street, the capture team quickly became suspicious of David's car. However, after observing carefully with binoculars, they only saw the driver inside. As his friend's car safely left the community, David sighed with relief in the trunk, now safe to proceed to the next destination. David's next hideout was at another friend's house. The fourth escape team then entered the scene. Lee Wilson, a bearded man, and his close brother Hilmar immediately went home to pack after receiving the escape notice. Hilmar's hometown had been devastated by a tornado, leaving him without a home, so he came to stay with his good friend Lee. Once the escape officially started, Lee Wilson remained extremely calm, knowing what the capture team would likely do first. The brothers quickly turned on their computer to deactivate their accounts and delete chat logs, browsing history, and other information to prevent the capture team from knowing their next move. Lee Wilson, anticipating a search of his home after his departure, left a message for when the ground forces arrived with a search warrant. The message read, "See you in 28 days. Goodbye, but not too soon. We'll come for the prize money then." Signed, the Two Wolves. Lee Wilson, nicknamed Wolf, ran an escape room business. He not only owned it, but also developed the escape games and mechanics, treating this escape as a test. Now on day 8 of Angela's team's escape, their next plan was to head to Angela's close friend Robin's house. To this point, Angela's team had been very cautious. Even so, the capture team had a rough understanding of Angela's social network, but still found it hard to pin down their exact whereabouts. They considered Angela's children, knowing they wouldn't likely reveal any clues about their mother. But what if other relatives slipped up during casual conversations? Angela's daughter, thinking it was just an ordinary chat, inadvertently informed the investigators. Apart from Michelle, another close friend was Robin. The youngest daughter not only mentioned Robin's name, but also revealed where Aunt Robin lived, a crucial clue. After the capture team confirmed Robin's address, the ground forces set out. The fifth escape team was introduced. A couple, Troy and Chelly, who had been married for 18 years. After receiving the escape notice, they quickly packed their bags. Having been in love since high school, and still very much in love, they ran a tactical airsoft gun shop. The couple chose not to contact friends or hide at someone else's house. Their plan was simple: head to the nearby Townsend Lake Park to survive and continue their escape. The team assigned to capture the couple needs to be capable. One is a former Special Forces member, and the other, a Homeland Security agent. They are currently driving towards the couple's airsoft gun shop. After spending half a day talking to the staff at the shop and not getting any leads, the various camouflage gear inside gave the agents a hint. They concluded that the couple might be hiding in the forest. Looking at the map, they wondered where to start searching in such a vast area. Now let's check in on Angela's team. Angela's daughter has just given Robin's details to the investigators, unbeknownst to Angela and Michelle. They were still en route to Robin's place in a truck. Meanwhile, the investigators had already reached near Robin's house. They found a neighbor across from Robin who agreed to help with the capture plan. The agents showed him photos of Angela and Michelle, then quickly set up a camera facing Robin's garage. Now, they just had to wait for their prey to walk into the trap. On the 9th night, Angela's team was successfully picked up by Robin. The neighbor immediately informed the capture team. After Angela's team arrived at Robin's, she decided to hide them in a beauty salon first. Before going, Robin called the salon owner, but this call was their downfall. The capture team could track Robin's mobile phone, her call information, and the geographic location. The ground forces quickly headed to the beauty salon, leading to Angela's team's capture. They made a critical mistake by relying on close acquaintances for help. Turning to David's team, David had previously used a diversion tactic, having a friend rent a car in his name. The investigators sent ground forces, but their efforts were in vain. During this time, David quickly fled to his girlfriend Emily's hometown. Emily's father is a well-known local priest, so David's team could only stay at her house for one night before driving to their next planned stop at a friend of Emily. The only hiccup was that the friend's house was so remote that Emily couldn't find it without calling her mother on a disposable phone for directions, which she deemed safer. However, making the call was still a risk. What David didn't know was that they had already made a fatal mistake. Before the show, David's team had written their entire escape plan on June's calendar page and tore it off when they started the escape. However, the paper of the calendar was thin, so the imprint of their plan was left on July's page. Now, the capture team knew David's next stop was Alabama, where Emily's parents live. Next, we move to the couple, Troy and Chelly, hiding in the wilderness. The couple has been in the swamps of Florida, enduring a difficult trek. They dare not stop and keep moving constantly. When tired of walking, they row, and when weary from rowing, they rest on shore. They have lived this way for 15 days. The harsh environment has taken a toll on them, and their food is now running low. It's uncertain how much longer they can hold out. Although the capture team is troubled, they are not without strategies. They believe it won't be long before the couple emerges to replenish their food supplies. The team plans to distribute missing person flyers at different trailheads and communities and to post a reward for the couple's capture on their social media accounts. This move ostensibly aims to coax the couple's friends into providing leads, but in reality, the investigators are just looking to see who cares about them by checking the comments. Meanwhile, Troy and Chelly can no longer endure the wild and start packing up, planning to leave the swamp and seek help from a friend. Although safe, it's too difficult to survive here. Thus, the couple, with their belongings, approach a stranger on the road to borrow a mobile phone. Seeing the suspicious-looking couple, the strangers become wary. Chelly takes the phone and calls her close friend Amanda, learning that investigators have posted about them on Facebook. Chelly panics when she hears this, especially since the post includes a bounty. Amanda agrees to help them move, but she can only arrive in an hour. Troy tells his wife to hang up and quickly returns the phone. During the hour waiting for their friend Amanda, the couple feels extremely tormented. Now let's see what's happening with the sixth group of contestants, a pair of brothers we'll call the Bearded Brothers. Upon receiving the escape notice, the Bearded Brothers quickly delete various information from their computer and then transfer by a friend's car. On the other side, the brother duo, Ellie Wilson and Hilmar, still use the email draft feature to contact family and friends. Lee Wilson is very clever. He knows the capture team will likely track and intercept his emails, so he devises a plan to create a new account, writes the new account's password on a piece of paper, and mails it to his relatives and friends, instructing them to use the draft feature of this new account. The next day, I logged into my account and found many letters in the draft box. However, many issues were still overlooked, especially the capture team. They had the ability to monitor every letter sent to all the contacts of the fugitive. This means that letters were secretly sent to my mother and friends. After these letters were sent, the capture team could use the U.S. postal system to photograph each envelope, a process called envelope photography. Lee Wilson's mother received a letter, which was not a problem. However, Lee Wilson's friends also received a letter, all sent from the same place with identical handwriting on the envelopes. Naturally, this raised suspicions. Usually, fugitives use old technology for communication. They thought the capture team would only investigate computers, tablets, email, and Facebook. Investigators called Lee Wilson's wife to ask about the letter she received. Meanwhile, the Good Brothers duo was in a car, being transferred by another friend. Lee Wilson used his friend's phone to call his wife, who immediately told him about the letter. Lee realized his proud method of contact had been discovered so quickly. Fortunately, he now knew in advance. He decided not to contact anyone anymore. On the other side, the couple finally got a ride from their friend Amanda. Troy and Chelly breathed a sigh of relief, glad not to sleep in the swamp anymore. Returning to civilization felt good. Now the capture team was analyzing the couple's social media accounts to see who commented under the wanted post. Many friends commented, but one, Amanda, caught the analyst's attention. Amanda and Chelly were close but hadn't contacted each other for a long time. The analyst intuitively felt Amanda would help the couple, which was understandable since the couple had called her after the warrant was issued. Now, the couple was in danger. Ground capture personnel came to Amanda's house and called her to ask for a meeting. Amanda was in her yard and agreed to meet. She should have come directly to the door, but instead ran back inside after hanging up. The capture personnel saw this. Amanda informed the couple inside. The couple felt everything turn dark. They hurriedly escaped from the backyard while Amanda was meeting with the capture team. They wandered near the highway for a long time and were eventually apprehended by the searching capture team, missing their last chance to escape. The couple was captured on the 18th day of their flight, making fatal errors in the final stages. Their biggest mistake was changing their strategy and returning to civilization from the primitive world. A pair of brothers named Miles and Will received a fleeing notice and immediately packed up to escape. Their strategy was unlike any other. They planned to seek help from strangers, specifically young girls, hoping these girls could provide them with shelter and food. They began planning in the car and even asked a female driver next to them for directions and her phone number. They quickly focused on a young girl with a backpack. After a brief chat, the brothers asked her if she could take them to a safe place. The girl was initially taken aback, but did not refuse. However, she needed to discuss it with her roommate first. Persuaded by the girl, the roommate agreed to host the handsome duo for the night. As the handsome duo's escape began, the capture team started analyzing their information, recognizing their attractiveness as a key factor since handsome men often have numerous female companions, suggesting a potentially chaotic personal life. Thus, the analysts identified several keywords: handsome, young, and female. During a previous capture, the issuance of a reward led to a clue. Therefore, for the handsome duo, a reward notice would be posted on a dating website popular among young people in university towns. Their strategy of seeking help from strangers posed significant risks. Can you be sure relatives won't betray you? Now, the handsome duo has arrived at the girl's house, enjoying a comfortable night with snacks, chatting, and watching movies. Let's now look at a new group of fugitives, a sister duo named Chu and Centra, who are Vietnamese. After receiving the fleeing notice, they wrote down all contact numbers in a notebook. Centra showed strong confidence, claiming she could always anticipate their next move. If hunters were close to capturing them, they would escape first. They got into CHU's fiancé's car for transportation, soon stopping to withdraw money and buy disposable phones, which don't require real name registration. At the moment they withdrew money, the capture team received transaction information and the address. Additionally, they checked for nearby stores selling disposable phones. Don't assume using disposable phones is foolproof. The sisters then fled the urban area and used the disposable phones to contact a friend, Robert, hoping for his help to hide at his house for a few days. Then, they needed to immediately drive to a gas station to refuel and withdraw more money. Whether refueling or withdrawing money, it was easy to expose their whereabouts. But unfortunately, the capture team couldn't clearly see their license plate number. After refueling, the sister duo didn't drive forward, but cleverly reversed to avoid the cameras. Meanwhile, the capture team investigated the store that sold disposable phones and, based on the purchase date and time, identified the sisters' receipt. This receipt contained the phone numbers of the disposable phones they bought. Using these numbers, the capture team accessed the call records and finally confirmed the sisters had contacted a person named Robert, who lives in St. Augustine, Florida, and is a friend of CHU. The capture team's analysis was correct. Now, returning to the handsome duo, they had reached a beach nearby and greeted some girls there. They asked if they could stay at their homes for the night. Persisting despite initial hesitations, they found a girl named Liz willing to help them. Liz lived at her friend Flynn's house, and with Flynn's agreement, they stayed there. Previously, the capture team had posted a reward notice on a dating site to find clues. After the handsome duo moved into Flynn's house, Flynn became suspicious and prepared to call the authorities. However, Liz intervened, arguing that it was wrong to betray them since she had brought them. Flynn's sister also felt that reporting them seemed inappropriate, and Flynn decided against it. After a few days, they convinced Flynn to help them find a car to leave town. At this moment, Flynn's sister called the capture team with a tip about the handsome duo. After reporting, Anna came back and warned the handsome duo that she had reported them, urging them to run. Confused, they decided to flee but didn't get far. Instead, they continued to seek help from girls in a busy plaza by the shore. The plaza quickly caught the hunters' attention. Although they managed to board a boat, they were located by the capture team's drones. At this point, running was futile, and they became the fourth group to be captured. At this point, the sister duo had already driven 120 kilometers away to a dense forest park. They settled by a river, planning to camp out and hide. Meanwhile, the capture team interrogated a friend of the sisters. Under persistent questioning, he became increasingly nervous and incoherent. Asked where he had met the sisters, he blurted out the cafe. This confirmed the last location where the sisters had been. The team accessed nearby surveillance, hoping to capture their license plate number. Previously at a gas station, the sisters had cleverly reversed after refueling to avoid the cameras, preventing their plate from being captured. This time, however, surveillance near the cafe did capture their vehicle's plate. With this number, the team could track their vehicle's location through scanners, which store every scanned plate in a database. If the sisters continued driving, they would reveal their movements. As for the ninth group of fugitives, a married couple, they had just reached their home when they received a notification. After settling their 3 children, they quickly prepared to flee. With no particular strategy, they stood by the road, hoping for a ride from passing drivers. The capture team analyzed them, noting the wife's dominant role as a PhD in audiology and the primary breadwinner, while the husband stayed home, cooking and caring for the children. This suggested frequent disagreements might occur. Back to the sisters on their 14th day of flight. They had been hiding outdoors, embracing nature. To celebrate surpassing half their planned escape duration, they decided to dine out in the city. Unbeknownst to them, as they drove, the capture team tracked their route through the plate scanner. Although their exact location was unclear, the team shifted focus to nearby dining areas. After exiting the highway, the sisters reached a service area but stayed in their car, asking a stranger to buy food for them. They should have fled immediately after getting the food, but instead parked in a shaded spot to eat. By then, the capture team had found the service area and quickly located their vehicle, capturing them on the spot. When the capture team's hands landed on their shoulders, the sisters didn't expect to be caught so quickly. Despite being a strong team, their downfall was their arrogance. Now let's see what's happening with the David duo. David and his girlfriend Emily were waiting for their friend Holly to drive them away. Holly was to take them to Vidalia. The capture team had always been outmaneuvered by David, but they made a new discovery. David had written an autobiography detailing his rise from a gang member to a defense attorney, driven by his desire to defend the wronged and abused. On the first day of their escape, analysts started reading his book but initially found nothing. Now, with no other clues, they revisited the book and identified several people who could be tracked, including Holly, whom David had thanked. This book also revealed a planned escape route to Vidalia, where Holly resides, an important lead. However, David did not hide at Holly's house. Instead, they used Holly's aunt to drive them to an auto shop in Vidalia. There, they contacted a friend of Emily, her ex-boyfriend from middle school, who lent them a car and arranged a cabin in the woods. Switching to the married couple, they were still on the streets looking for help to leave the city. Whether due to bad luck or something else, they found no help all day. Just as they were getting desperate in the pouring rain, a kind stranger drove them to a nearby construction site to stay in temporary housing. Back to David and Emily, from the start, they meticulously followed their escape plan. Emily's ex-boyfriend provided a car and a cabin in the woods. Using the calendar with the escape plan and David's mention of Holly in his book, the capture team deduced that the duo had fled to Vidalia, Georgia. Satellite analysis quickly revealed several cabins hidden in the woods. The intelligence of the capture team was impressive. Emily's ex-boyfriend was indeed hiding David and Emily in one of these cabins near the city. The team quickly surrounded the cabin, but after careful observation, they found it empty, with no sign of activity. At that time, David and Emily were actually nearby, but not in that cabin. They were in another one close by. At this point, they had accidentally alerted their pursuers. Suddenly aware, David heard the distant drone noise and the footsteps of the hunters. Holding a telescope, although he saw nothing with the naked eye, he sensed danger. The David group quickly packed up and drove away with Lee. By the time the capture team arrived, only the ex-boyfriend was left in the cabin. He calmly answered all questions, allowing David's group to escape once again. Now, turning to the brother duo, Lee and Hilmar, both experts in evasion, are on day 16 of their escape. Lee misses his pregnant wife and children, making him restless. Today, Father's Day, is also Ellie's 34th birthday. Wanting a safe meeting with his wife without jeopardizing their escape, Lee thought of a bold idea. His friend Tim, who owns a 6-seater private plane, flew his wife in for a brief visit. The short reunion was deeply satisfying for Lee, boosting his motivation and confidence to win the game. After returning home, his wife Beth posted a photo on Facebook of their meeting, holding a local newspaper, mocking the capture team. The capture team was annoyed upon seeing this, but could do nothing. Back to the David group, the capture team learned about Emily's connection to her ex-boyfriend Philip, who works at a car dealership. The car he lent to the David group had a traceable license plate. The capture team quickly identified the car model and license plate number. With this information, they could track the group's movements using license plate readers. This oversight was a fatal mistake for the David group, who were still reveling in outsmarting the capture team. Instead of laying low, they drove to Emily's hometown in Alabama. Soon, the capture team pinpointed their approximate location using highway license plate readers. The David group was in a tight spot, with their car low on fuel and the pursuers' tanks full. Emily, driving, finally noticed the tracking vehicles behind them. Despite knowing the dire circumstances, the David group thought of contacting friends for help in escaping. The capture team, aware that the group would not surrender easily, had already grasped David's circle of friends. At this time, the call received by David's friend was definitely from David. From these call records, the capture team identified David's disposable phone number. To create psychological pressure on David and make him panic, the capture team called him. By then, panic made errors more likely. The capture team had already intercepted David's outgoing calls and determined his group's final plan to escape to a park while en route to Alabama. There was only one large park, which they learned through aerial maps had two entrances. The capture team quickly devised a plan. They had Squad C deliberately lag behind to make David think he was not being followed, while Squad A took a shortcut to reach the park's other entrance before David. Indeed, thinking he had successfully escaped without seeing any hunters behind him, David was unaware that another group of hunters was already on his trail. In a frantic rush, he abandoned his car and split up with his girlfriend to run. From their desperate sprint, it was evident that David was reluctant to give up. He had not anticipated the hunters appearing so suddenly on the road and capturing him so quickly. David's seemingly flawless plan had many flaws and relied too heavily on so-called connections. Moving to the last three teams, the Bearded Brothers, known as the Two Wolves, and a couple team. First, let's talk about the Bearded Brothers. Midway through their escape, they hid on a small island in a lake. When the capture team tracked them there, the Bearded Brothers had to move. During this time, one of them shaved off all his hair and beard, turning into a bald man. After safely escaping from the RV, their car was quickly found. However, the Bearded Brothers did not have enough money to pay the car fare, which totaled $90. They only had $80. The driver, who also followed Islam like the Bearded Brothers, let them ride based on this shared faith. But this $10 shortfall ultimately compromised the Bearded Brothers. After getting off, they stayed in a mosque for a few days. On the 19th day, as the Bearded Brothers were preparing to leave, they called the driver to repay him. Needing to withdraw money, they went to an ATM at a gas station and took out $100. After getting the money, they hurried back. Meanwhile, the capture team received the withdrawal information and pinpointed the location of the mosque near the withdrawal site on a map. The Bearded Brothers put the owed money into a mailbox they had agreed upon with the driver, then immediately got into their friend A-Man's car and headed to Atlanta. In the mosque, the elder brother identified the ones who had just escaped as the Bearded Brothers. They left in a blue car. Quickly, the capture team accessed the mosque's surveillance video. Based on the escape time and the color of the car, they identified it as A-Man's, a friend of the Bearded Brothers. With the license plate number, they could gather details about a man, such as his phone number. At this time, the Bearded Brothers were using A-Man's phone to contact a distant acquaintance, Sam. They thought this would prevent the capture team from discovering Sam. However, this exposed the new contact, Sam. By then, the Bearded Brothers had already gotten into Sam's car. The capture team began tracking Sam's phone location. Analysis showed that Sam had stayed at a farm for nearly an hour. This farm was indeed a good hiding spot. The hunters quickly informed 3 capture teams and rushed to the farm. It was only a matter of time before the Bearded Brothers were caught. Although they were still struggling, hiding in the most secluded corner of the farm, the hunters' thorough search ended their escape. Now, only 2 teams remain. Let's look at the Good Brothers team. During their escape, they were very clever and strategic. Not only did they leave no clues for the capture team, but Ali from the Good Brothers team had a friend fly a plane to bring his wife over for a meeting. They even took a photo mocking the capture team, infuriating the hunters. Afterwards, the Good Brothers tricked the hunters again at another friend's house, mocking them even more. Remember the call the capture team made to Ellie's wife? After getting the phone from his wife, Ellie posted ads on a secondhand website, all about selling used bicycles. Once these ads were up, the capture team began receiving strange texts and calls like, "I'll take your bike," and "Has your bike been sold?" The Good Brothers used this tactic to distract the hunters. But wasn't Lee worried about completely angering the hunters, who could apply to obtain IP addresses? The Good Brothers had anticipated this. Shortly after posting the ads, now the Good Brothers team and a couple team have only 3 days left in the final stage of the escape game. The fugitives need to complete a final operation in 3 steps. First, log into a secured website to get all information. Second, go to the specified bank to withdraw $250,000 in cash. And third, walk from the bank to the escape area to board a plane and successfully escape. Note, the two teams' withdrawal locations are different, then they walk to the escape area. Though the distance isn't far, it undoubtedly gives the capture team one last chance to catch them. The initial setup for withdrawing money allowed only $100 to be taken at a time from a total of $500. Each withdrawal exposed the fugitives. Now, after two teams had chosen their withdrawal locations, they awaited the 28th day. At this time, the wife in the couple's team wanted to ask her sister Amber for help, especially since it was the critical moment and family seemed more reliable. However, Amber was under constant surveillance by the capture team, who had already traced a call she had made to her sister. At such a critical juncture, such a basic mistake was risky. Yet, rethinking the situation, the call the couple made to Amber might not have been a bad thing after all. They had actually escaped in another car by the time they were worrying about finding a car to withdraw the money. The family they were staying with, strangers who became their greatest help, offered the couple a car. This kindness allowed the couple to continue their escape. Using a public phone, they contacted Amber. The wife deliberately spoke slowly when mentioning the location, not out of concern that Amber wouldn't understand, but to ensure the hunters wouldn't either. Indeed, the capture team, having tracked Amber's phone number, intercepted the entire call. However, when the capture team arrived at the specified location, they found only Amber and the two aunts in the car. Seizing the moment, the couple drove to the withdrawal location. Meanwhile, the brother team also successfully reached their intended withdrawal location, and both teams withdrew $250,000 in cash. However, there was a downside. If captured on their way to the escape zone, the $250,000 would be reclaimed. After both teams withdrew the cash, the capture personnel confirmed the bank locations. By then, sending a car was too late, as the bank was only a few miles from the escape zone. Ultimately, both the couple and the brother team successfully boarded the plane, leaving the capture team no choice but to congratulate them. Congratulations to the couple and the brother team on winning the game.